tonight, I got to tell you. It's going to be what? Can I tell them about your car?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
If you have to.
I have to. I'm a car guy. I want you guys to sit here and watch him and listen to him tonight, and then figure out exactly when are you going to be up front here making the same presentation to my students, how many years from now. Because first of all, I want to tell you, I like cars. A lot of you know that I've had in class. I like cars a lot. He has a Ferrari what?
F430.
Any of you guys going to get it one of these years, huh? Or something like it, right? And he only graduated from here in 1990. This guy's still a young guy. So you start getting stars in your eyes when you listen to him. And wait till you hear what he's done with this company and how he started it. It's going to be beautiful for you. So you pay attention tonight, and you, all the way through listening to him, you'll be saying, I'm going to get up here and give a speech just like him, and let's see, no more, I don't want any of you doing it any later than 2020, because I'm going to die in 2021, okay? All right? So we want to start out with Dean John Wolahan, who retired as our dean just August, I guess, huh? Yeah. And John will help us. Here, we'll get you in the middle here.
Okay.
Presenting him with a nice little award, and you will all want to get this award, and I'm going to put it up there, and you can look at it later and make sure you find out how we spell your name on this award when you get it. So I'll read it if I can to you. The Conrad Hilton Distinguished Entrepreneur Award, celebrating entrepreneurial excellence, exceptional achievement, and powerful leadership, presented to John Baudhuin. Did I do it right?
Perfect.
Oh my, oh my. LMU MBA 1990, founder, owner, Mad Dog Athletics, creator of the Spinning Stationary Exercise Bicycle and the Worldwide Spinning Exercise Program. A trained CPA with a passion for exercise, he worked out with a professional bicycle racer, fell in love with the concept of indoor exercise on a stationary bicycle. The two made their concept a worldwide phenomenon with millions of exercise enthusiasts taking classes daily and using their bicycles around the world. There are now 35,000 spinning clubs in 75 countries around the world. I've made this up 2 months ago. There's now in 80 countries around the world. So he moves fast, you know. So very few entrepreneurial leaders have the creativity and the courage to take their passion and create a new worldwide phenomenon as big as this. One can only say, wow. LMU is proud to honor John Baudhuin. Did I do it right?
Perfect.
Okay. One of our own outstanding graduates for his exceptional entrepreneurial excellence, powerful leadership, and world impact. There we go, sir.
Great. Well, thank you.
Pose a little bit here just so a young boy can take a picture or two, and my wife's going to take a picture or two over there. Okay? Great. We'll put it over here for you. Okay. Yeah, thanks, John.
Well, I had the opportunity to take a tour earlier and to actually see some of the other people that have presented as part of the lecture series, and I'm truly humbled by having the opportunity to be here. You know, ironically, it was almost 18 years to the day almost that I was preparing to graduate from the LMU MBA program. And, you know, funny enough, I started my company about a year after I left LMU. So as I sit here today and look at all of you, I think, gosh, that's about the time in my life, or shortly after, that I actually started my company. So it's a huge honor for me to be here, and I want to thank, I was going to call him Dr. Kiesner, but he said actually Grandpa Fred, for allowing me, and of course the faculty here at LMU, and wow, you know, really an incredible transformation in the 18 years since I was first here. The campus is incredible, and to see some of the accomplishments that the faculty and of course the students have made, it's pretty incredible. So it's, like I said, truly an honor to be here. So tonight, I didn't really prepare you know, a PowerPoint or really anything too formal. Maybe I'll just, by a show of hands, you know, get an idea how many people have actually heard of spinning or have taken a class. Boy. Yeah, I was going to say, pretty fit crowd. You know, I remember in the early days, I'd get on a plane and I'd be sitting next to somebody and they'd say, well, what is it you do? And I'd say, have you ever heard of spinning? and the only thing that I could conjure up was twirling around or doing something else. So it's actually nice to be in front of a group that actually has heard of what we do. As I mentioned, it's been about 18 years. When I started the company, a lot of people ask, well, how did you get involved with it? And my story was really one of passion. I think there's a lot of types of entrepreneurs in the world. There's entrepreneurs that are raised in entrepreneurial families and have an opportunity to move on and join a family business. Entrepreneurs that work in companies that ultimately take over those companies, and entrepreneurs that have started somewhat organically. And mine is really a story of really starting organically. It was a passion of mine. I've been a cyclist my whole life. From the time I was young, I rode BMX bikes and race bikes in college. So when I graduated, I went to undergrad at UC Santa Barbara, and I graduated actually with a degree in economics, sat for the CPA exam, and really got into public accounting, I think, within 6 months of my graduation from UCSB. I realized pretty shortly after that accounting was really not probably for me in the long run, but really a stepping stone to doing something that I really loved. And I really always looked at that as an opportunity to engage with a lot of businesses and a lot of entrepreneurs and to really get a better understanding of what I might want to do someday. And that led me to, I started the MBA program in about 1987. Started my MBA program, again, still working full-time as a CPA, working all day, coming and taking the program at night, and ultimately graduated in 1990. After graduation, I was still a little pressed for time, although I tell you, once you graduate, if you are working full-time, for those of you that have jobs and take the program at night, it's a remarkable feeling because suddenly you almost don't know what to do with yourself. So if there's ever a perfect time to start a business, it's right when you graduate because you have all this free time that you never thought or remembered actually having. So I basically was out training. I was working, and of course the life of a CPA has to do with tax season and the terrible hours that you spend between January and April. It's somewhat of, I guess I used to call it indentured servitude, that we worked this really incredible number of hours between January and April. I enjoyed the work that I did, and the company I worked for was actually here in Los Angeles. We catered primarily to closely held businesses. We didn't do any audit work for publicly traded companies. It was all entrepreneurial companies between 10 and let's say 100 million in revenues, but primarily all closely held family or single owner partnership type businesses. So I had an opportunity to really be exposed to a lot of different things. And one of the things that did for me was really not necessarily give me an idea of what I wanted to do, but really exposed me to the concept of what I wanted to be. And I really decided early on, and again after 8 years of practicing as a CPA, that long term I wanted to be like one of my clients. And little did I know, during this time I actually was trying to get in shape, trying to stay in shape, trying to race bikes on the weekend. And I met a guy out riding one day, a pro cyclist, a guy by the name of Johnny G, who was training for the Race Across America. And we became friends, started training together, and it was about, probably 3-4 months after that we were coming up with this concept of how to develop a bike that you could actually ride indoors that simulated outdoor cycling. And like any great entrepreneurial venture, it really wasn't, it was more of a hobby, but it was really fueled by a passion for cycling and a little bit misguided in the start. We actually thought that we were creating a cycling training program for cyclists. And so that was really our focus, was to get more cyclists trained. And little did we know when we started actually first offering these classes that most of the people that came weren't cyclists. They were just average people. They were people that wanted to get in shape. And that's really how we started the light came on and we realized that there was a world out there that was much larger than the cycling community. And so we, in 1993, actually were building bikes in our garage. So I'd come home at night. I haven't worn a suit, I have to say. When I left public accounting in 1995, I hung up my suits, and ultimately I felt bad about giving away my ties and my suits, but year after year I thought, I haven't worn it in 3 years, it's probably time to give it away to Goodwill. And pretty soon I found my closet completely empty. I had no suits, no ties. And so a couple years ago, I actually went out and bought a suit. So I now have 2, and now I have 2 ties. So this is a special occasion for me to actually be in my suit. So here we're starting this business. I'd get home from work and I'd go out to the garage, I'd take off my suit, throw on the jeans, and I would start putting parts onto these bike frames that we were making over at a place called Steve's Plating in the Valley. And one of the turning points for me was, now you can imagine I'm working on a 23rd floor of a building right over at Wilshire and San Vicente. And one day we got the ship to, bill to address mixed up, and I was out to lunch, and my assistant took delivery of 2 pallets of steel parts on the 23rd floor that were wheeled into our file room. So you can imagine, here I am on the eve of, I've been working this firm for a while. I was a senior manager. I was in line to become a partner of the firm. And of course, I had to answer the question of, what are all these parts? I couldn't obviously tell them it was just a hobby, and it was for my own personal use, because there were close to 150 chains and cranks and parts and so forth. So I remember that night as I was using the mail cart that wasn't meant to carry steel parts, taking loads of these things down to my car, throwing it into my car, making a trip home, coming back, loading another, and this took several trips to actually get everything back to the garage where it should have been delivered. But it was a little bit of a turning point for me. I realized at that point that, I'm working hard, I'm working for this firm, and I'd like to think, when I think back on the 15 years, it was really just a series of paths. It's a lot of different forks in the road, and I know it's a little bit of a cliche to say, well, you took a fork in the road, but it really is. It's a fork in the road. I was sitting there saying, well, I like public accounting. I have an income, which is a good thing. But boy, I'm really passionate about cycling. I'm passionate about what I see this company, and it wasn't much of a company, but what I see this company potentially becoming. And it was really one of the worst things you can ever do in public accounting, which was to give notice at the end of, or beginning of March. So my firm, they're still my firm, and they've since forgiven me. I actually made my last day March 31st, 1995, and made the transition to be out on my own and starting this company. Now, the only problem at the time, of course, that meant that I no longer had an income. What was great about actually working for the firm was I actually had a paycheck that would pay the rent. And so I went from the security of that to really living on savings and simultaneously try to get the company up and running. We decided early on that we weren't very good manufacturers, and so again, another kind of fork in the road was really that decision whether we should continue manufacturing bikes ourselves, trying to set up facilities, or to license the manufacturing to another company. And it's a key decision that we made, and as I'll explain later on, sometimes these forks in the road don't always work out the way you planned, but take you kind of in unintended directions that maybe you never intended to go. But in my case, we ended up deciding that we would license the manufacturing rights to a company by the name of Schwinn. So in '95, we licensed it to Schwinn, and Schwinn began producing our bikes commercially for the commercial market. The only problem was we had actually signed away, when we did the licensing agreement, the rights to produce bikes for spinning. We never differentiated between the home market, the infomercial market, the international market, the domestic market, the domestic commercial market, the domestic consumer market, the specialty fitness retailers. It was pretty much the whole ball of wax. So as we progressed in the relationship, we just weren't seeing a lot of movement on the part of Schwinn. And ultimately in 2000, we started seeing some issues with them. And believe it or not, in 2001, they filed bankruptcy. So we had the opportunity to pull everything back and to bring it in-house. And once again, we're faced with yet another fork in the road. Do we take this on ourselves? Do we start manufacturing the bikes and doing it ourselves, or do we go on to license this to another company? We were faced by that point with a lot of competitive pressure. One thing I didn't mention, I skipped a few years. Our first competitor was Reebok. We actually were sitting there, Reebok called us one day and said, I think this was about 1996, called us one day and said, we'd like to have a meeting with you. We've heard about this spinning program and we've heard some really great things and we'd love to come out and see you. So we met with them a couple times and it came down to them wanting to make us an offer on the business. And we sat in a conference room, excuse me, at the Schwinn headquarters. They were on the other line. And we're going back and forth, and we said, well, we're going to put you on hold for just a second here. And we hit the mute button. And these guys kept talking. And we could hear them, and we sat there and we listened to them, and we thought, wow, these guys really don't have our best interest at heart. They really are looking at it as a program that they can use to market, other things, but they just don't get it. And I'd like to think that that was a point of divine intervention because, but for that, here I am, I'm 32 years old. They've just offered us, I think at the time, dollars for our company. Certainly more money than I'd ever seen in my life. But we actually went outside, my partner Johnny and I at the time, went outside and talked about it and came back in and said, well, you know what, we just don't feel comfortable with this. And with that, the executive at Reebok said, there's a good chance that no one will know that spinning ever existed. And we said, well, you got to do what you got to do. So we carried on, and of course, months after that, Reebok, with a much bigger checkbook than us, hired away a number of our key people, a lot of our key trainers, and started their own cycle program called Cycle Reebok. Shortly after that, of course, the problem with having a giant competitor like that jump in the market is that now everybody says, well, gosh, if Reebok's going to get in the market, this must really be something. So we had a flood of companies that went into the market and started producing indoor cycling bikes. Now, I'm going to jump around a little bit. One of the things that I've always been pretty meticulous when it comes to things like accounting, but patents and trademarks. So we early on spent a lot of our resources basically patenting the bike and protecting our trademarks worldwide, and spent a huge amount of the company's resources basically just taking care of the intellectual property. And we're filing trademarks in countries where we don't know whether we're going to be there in a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 or never. But spending a huge amount of resources getting our trademarks and patents filed. So ultimately, when these things did issue, we were able to build our brand Spinning and currently own the Spin, Spinning, Spinner trademarks worldwide. But it was a huge savior for us to actually have a brand like that we could protect and defend. So I'm not going to jump around too much. I know you guys, I actually brought some slides here just to give you an idea, a little bit of what Spinning's about. We're actually two things. We're, of course, a product company. We make bikes. We sell about 100,000 bikes a year. Between our distribution partner, our infomercial, our direct business, we sell pretty close to about $45 million worth of bikes. And then our training programs, we're one of the world's largest fitness education companies. So we train instructors how to teach the spinning program as well as other fitness programs that I'll explain a little bit. We currently make a couple different models of bikes. The bike here on the top right is our latest bike. We actually went from the garage, kind of the first versions that we created that looked fairly similar to the bikes on the bottom right and the top left, to hiring BMW Design Works to make a bike that was custom aluminum extrusion, very corrosion resistant, and just a really cool overall design. In addition to that, some of the new products we're coming out with, we've extended into what we call our e-spinner. This is a product we just launched last week, actually, at a big trade show in San Francisco, or in San Diego. Our education business, we currently have trainers in about 250 countries around the world. We've trained 180,000 instructors worldwide how to teach the spinning program. So going back again to this kind of growth curve for us, when we first started working with Schwinn, we simultaneously started going into all these countries. Now, I'd have to say we were pretty ill prepared. And the issue with our bikes was that we had a bike. The problem is if you sold the bike, they had no idea how to use it. So we were in this position where we had no choice but to create this educational program that we could actually teach instructors how to teach our program. And so from the very beginning, we married the two. We were one of the first companies to actually develop equipment and then a training program that goes around it. So our spinning instructor education program is taught currently in about 28 different languages around the world. And as I mentioned, we have trainers in roughly about 65 countries around the world. We produce all sorts of continuing ed, things like videos. We have an online education program. Afterwards, if you guys want, I'll give you my cards. You can go to spinning.com and kind of see the scope of what we're doing from an education standpoint. We currently produce a lot of different products, so we make everything from clothing to footwear, things like computers for the bike, mats, bags, caps, pretty much any accessory that works with the bike. Gel seat covers, bags, you can see. A lot of different videos, so we have a spinning infomercial. We produce about anywhere from 4 to 8 videos per year. So for all those people that want to work out at home, they can pop a DVD into their player and ride at home, much like they'd be in a class. We're now doing, and the technology has allowed us to do streaming videos, so we can now have people log on and either download a video or actually work out to, like I said, a video they download or streaming video. And some of the brands, and I'll get to this later, some of the product line extensions now have gone into other areas of fitness. The one thing, and when I really started thinking about, what does it mean to be an entrepreneur, and really thinking about being here tonight, I go back and to me it was really this whole concept of going down different paths and really looking at those paths as to how you really evaluate those. And as part of the MBA program, I think the incredible thing that the program gave me, in addition to my experience as a CPA, was really a lot of the analytical tools to really assess, as I hit each path, which way to go. And the assessment, and funny enough, and I'll talk a little bit about my partner. My partner was a pro cyclist, didn't have any formal education, was a guy who was really driven by passion and very inclined to make very emotional decisions. So he was the emotional part. Everybody always said, Johnny makes all his decisions emotionally, and John makes all his decisions analytically. So here we had this great combination in our business of someone who was fairly emotional and or made emotional based decisions, and someone who was very analytical and made more objective decisions. So it was a pretty good mix. And and look back today, I can't say one way is better or worse. In fact, I'll tell you a funny little story. I remember after I left being a CPA, I was pretty used to working 10, 12 hours a day. And I couldn't understand why the staff didn't want to work 10 or 12 hours a day. And I one time was complaining to him, and I said, I just don't get it. We're trying to do this, and they just walk out of here at 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. And he looked at me and he said, did you ever think it that has your priorities set? And I thought, all right, that's a good point. And he was thinking, and always thought, hey, they work for us, they have families, they have kids, they have lives, and we need to respect that. And it was really a great lesson to me, because again, came from this environment where that was really pretty much the norm. And so as we progressed in business together, it was really a great balance. It was a great, I think, his approach at looking at things more from a standpoint of relationships and being subjective and more emotional about the way his thought process really helped temper my very analytical approach. So it was a pretty good, combination. So what our company is really about? So a little bit of the bikes, and I'll back up here. So the bikes, the training, and the program. The way we've structured our business model, we actually have bikes, so the product, the tangible product, so we're a product company. We have the education, so we're really a service business. We typically, the first interaction that an instructor has with us is to become a certified spinning instructor. So they don't buy bikes, they basically just simply go through our training program. And then of course the products. So once we sell the bikes, once we sell the education, we have an opportunity to push products behind that. The most important component and probably the greatest part about my experience with starting this company has been the community. Early on we had an opportunity to go worldwide. Early in 1995 we launched the program throughout Europe. To the mid 90s we launched the program into Latin America, into Asia, and I had the opportunity to actually go to these places and experience not only working on the product side but also working on the service side of the business and really look at how we were building this community of spinning. And of course the spinning instructors came all the spinning students, and how many have actually taken a spinning class? Do you get in your class a sense of camaraderie? There's a group that, a group dynamic. I remember early on, one of the first things, one of the incredible things about the program that I experienced was our first, the first charity event that I'd ever been exposed to, and it was a woman at a local club here who had been diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was her that actually pitched in, did a fundraiser at the club level to, revenues to help her and her family while she was going through chemotherapy and her recovery. And it was an incredible experience because I had never really as something that was part of this community, and really on that deeper level of what was taking place at the class level, it really was a community. And as I went on, I got to experience letters and calls from people that said, you really can't even imagine how the spinning program has helped me. It's great being in health and fitness. One of the great things about spinning is we're really helping people lead healthier lives. And so it's really a great experience when you do get those letters from people that say, hey, I lost 50 pounds. I never thought I'd be fit. I've been overweight my entire life. And pushing that into community, we've really seen where that group dynamic, that camaraderie has really helped people achieve incredible things in their lives. We just this last weekend sponsored a big event for veterans returning back from the war. A number of them have lost limbs. A number of them have suffered a number of psychological issues as a result there. And there was an interesting study that just came out and said that one of the best ways to rehabilitate is to actually get on a bike. So all you had to do is tell me that, and I'm there, because if my wife, who's here in the front row, will tell you, if there's a chance I can get anybody on a bike, I will. So if you come over to my office, I have bikes there. I always love trying to get people on a bike, learning to ride. So this really started to evolve, and again, I look at these different paths that I've taken over the years, and it really started to change my thinking about how we could affect people's lives, and really starting to look at really what drove our business. And in the end, it wasn't the salespeople that were out there banging on the doors saying, hey, are you interested in buying a bike? It wasn't the promotional ads that we put in the paper and in the magazine saying, would you like to become a spinning instructor? It was the community. And so it was at that point in time that we decided to really shift our focus from trying to do a lot of external things and really working more to build the community worldwide. So I'm not looking at my watch, so I want to make sure we're okay. Okay. So I'm going to move forward here kind of through this real quick. So some of the things that we've done around the world, and you'll get an idea how this has shifted our thinking about the spinning and what we could accomplish. We do a lot of events. So this particular event is one in the Netherlands. I have the managing director of my company there has a disabled child who really owes her life to the Children's Hospital and wanted to do something really incredible for the organization that has helped him so much and helped his family, and started a little event a few years back with 30 bikes in a room. As you can see, this year close to 500 bikes raised, I think the grand total 307,000 euros, which it's kind of neat. You know, now with the exchange rate, of course, if any of you that follow that, it's almost $500,000. So it's a pretty good sum for the Children's Hospital. And we've worked to support events all over the world. This is a recent event we did in Beijing, the Ride for Hope. If I could read these, I could tell you all the other particulars, but this was to provide scholarships for students that couldn't afford, scholarships in sports and fitness for students that couldn't afford the tuition. This year we have our annual event. It's a once a year event that we bring together all our clubs all over the world, and we raise money for various charities. This year we have 2 cancer charities and an AIDS foundation. And again, these are a lot of the ways that we've really taken the traditional marketing and really just turned it around and said, you know what, we're going to go out there and try to really change people's lives. We're going to go out there and try to help people. And it's really, you know, I think for us, been one of the most rewarding things we've ever done, because we really do see day in and day out how we can change people's lives. We can do these types of events and actually make a difference in the communities. And you know, I'd have to say I've done these events all over the world, and one of the things, I've taken classes in Portuguese, German, French, Italian, Spanish, you know, Chinese, pretty much every language. And it's a pretty incredible thing to see. You sit there and you're sweating, you're riding away, and you're looking over and you're saying, gosh, that's the same smile that I've seen in all these other countries. That's the same, you know, the same enthusiasm, the same excitement. And it really has been a great learning experience for me, both in terms of just, you know, being able to see it, but also a great understanding, providing me a better understanding of some of the cultural differences, and really realizing that although there are cultural differences, there's this certain, you know, thread that runs through us all, and a certain commonality. And it's really neat that we've been able to see that. And again, I don't speak any languages, a little bit of Spanish, but beyond that, but I can still go and take a class in German. I've taken classes in Hungarian, and really have achieved the same experience. And so this has really been our model to go out there and to really push consistency in the program, consistency in our education, consistency in our products, and to try to have the experience be somewhat, you know, I hate to use the McDonald's analogy, because when I do, people say, oh, McDonald's is, you know, it's terrible, you know, all the trans fats and so forth. But we really do try to create a similar experience. So whether you take a class in Germany or in France or here in the United States, that it's a similar experience. And that's really what our organization has been about creating this experience for people, and something that they can, again, get fit and healthy. The switch pages here. I know one of the things in looking through some of the past lectures and really what the university speaks about is a lot of social responsibility, some of the ethics involved with business, and I can truly say that we as an organization have benefited tremendously from being socially conscious, from being an organization that really does care about people's well and people getting fit and healthy and supporting events like this. And it's something that I've always believed in. It's been my passion. I've loved to see people get fit and healthy, because to see that somebody loses that 20 pounds, somebody that has just gone through bypass surgery, someone that has gone through an illness, to see them exercise and get back to a place of health is probably one of the most incredible gifts that I think that you can experience in life. I have a good friend in New York City. He was one of the firefighters that actually made it out of the towers. He, although I think it has more to do with him, but he said, I really credit spinning with saving my life. He said, I was overweight. In fact, I was at the point where I was nearly flunking out as a firefighter, and started taking spinning classes. I actually lost 35 pounds, and it was being in that shape that really helped me. So it's a neat story, and again, I hate to even pretend to take credit for it, because it really isn't me. It's really about the organization we've created worldwide, and the 180,000 instructors that teach our program, the incredible number of clubs out there, the health clubs that offer our program and support our company, and really those are the people making a difference. We're just there to hopefully provide a little bit of push and a little bit of support to make that happen. So I'll go back. Here, these are some of the events that we've done. Let me just go back here. So I'm going a little bit out of order. So I was talking a little bit about our company and how we've evolved. After Schwinn went bankrupt in 2000, we ended up working with another licensee. We started to expand our product line. We were out from under this horrendous agreement, and we had a clean slate. So when we entered into the new licensing agreement, we actually carved out a number of different markets, and we really left ourselves a lot of opportunity to start expanding into other areas of health and fitness with our bike and program. So the company today, we've taken the same platform, the same pipeline, and I always like to think of it as this pipeline that we've created. These trainers, the training, the clubs, the organizations offer spinning, the YMCAs, we're in about 40,000 clubs now. So we have a great network of clubs out there that offer our program. So it's created a platform for us to go out with other types of products. This is our Pilates reformer. How many people actually do Pilates? Okay, a lot less than spinning, so I can see there's room for growth. It's a good thing. So we offer very similarly. What we have now realized as a company, and again, going back to that path analogy, we really realized that we're really at offering equipment-based education and the equipment that actually goes with the education. So Pilates was a natural extension for our company because we have, again, the infrastructure built out to sell and manufacture equipment. We also have the infrastructure built out to train instructors. And by combining these, we see opportunities to continue to go into other areas that will allow us to leverage our strengths. And I think that's probably the most interesting part about being an entrepreneur. I'd have to say, people say, gosh, how did you figure all that out? And I always say, I'm by no means the smartest guy in the room, but I've learned one thing, that if you can learn from your mistakes and not be afraid to make mistakes, that that in and of itself makes you a better business person. And I'd have to say, we've made a lot of mistakes. We've made a lot of mistakes with Schwinn. We've made a lot of mistakes on different licensing deals. We've made a lot of mistakes with going into products. But I'd like to think that if you can go down that path and yeah, look for the forks in the road and look for the opportunities, but always give yourself a way back to that main path. and to remember what your core business is. And that was something that we've, as an organization, held very dearly. We're very cognizant of our core business, of the fact that we're good at certain things. There's a lot of things that potentially, I guess, we probably could have gotten into and made money at, but it really wouldn't leverage our core competence. And so we've really tried to focus, and I think, I've, over the years, like I said, had a lot of opportunities to meet with a lot of entrepreneurs. I know a lot of entrepreneurs, and it really is that focus and to things and to analyze things and to really look at things both subjectively. And I always look at the subjective, and I think there's an emotional side to every entrepreneur. I want to do it. There's no reason why I shouldn't do this. And there's always a tendency to look at the objective as saying you're just being a devil's advocate. You're not really being that supportive. But really you need both. And the strategic fits somewhere in the middle, where if you can balance the objective and the subjective and look at the strategic, you can really make a lot of really great decisions. And really, I think, reach out to the people. I'm always amazed, and I've had a number of mentors over the year. My father passed away last year, but was a great mentor to me, and he was always on the very, I'd say, super objective side, and sometimes too objective. I remember calling him and telling him I was leaving my firm to start a bike company that was basically putting a bunch of bikes in a room with an instructor who played music and then told everybody to pedal. And now you can imagine, my dad actually was a CPA for a couple of years and went on to work as CFO at a large company. But initially, he was a little skeptical about whether or not I was, losing it, and if I just kind of allowed this passion to overtake me. Ironically, when I was at UC Santa Barbara, funny thing, I remember working all summer long, and I had this great job cleaning carpets. And so I think I was making $7 an hour, which back then it doesn't seem like a lot today, but back then it was a lot. And I worked all summer long, and at the end of the summer I bought an $1,800 bike. And my brother ratted me out and said to my dad, he bought an $1,800 bike. And I remember my dad saying, if you can afford an $1,800 bike, you can afford to put yourself through college. He was always a little bit more, bluster than action. But, I'd have to say that, when we first started getting out there, and I think the first time that I had an opportunity to actually go on CNN, and he was able to see me on CNN, that was the turning point to where he said, okay, maybe that wasn't such a bad, terrible thing to have done. So, I think that there's a lot of opportunities. I always tell the story, back when I was a CPA, I had, have you guys ever heard of the Breath Assure little caplets? They were popular years ago. I had a client that said, I'm trying to raise some money. I'm just trying to get this project off the ground. And all I need is, I'll sell $50,000. I'll give 50% of the company up for $50,000. And I said, I just started this bike company, and I wish I could help you out, but and long story short, a couple years later, he sold the company for $25 million. So it's one of those things, it's one of those things. I had another friend, a neuroradiologist, that there was a bill that passed in 1994 that doctors could no longer own an interest in the facilities that they referred business to. He wanted me to partner in an MRI center and leave my firm, and I said, I just started this, and I really want to focus on this. And today I think he owns 14 MRI centers, and it's just a number of things that drive you. And for me, I think it was really, like I said, a passion, and whatever it is that drives you ultimately to take that chance, and it really is a chance. Really take a look at it and consider it, because I can say that I think the one curse of ultimately becoming an entrepreneur is I don't know if you can ever really go back. Once it's really in your I think it'd be hard to go back to where today, showing up in an office and having somebody tell me that I can't bring my dog to work, or that I need to be in at a certain time. So it's really been an incredible thing, and that's not just the only benefits. I think there's a tremendous number of benefits that come from just really being able to chart your own path. And I really believe that each and every one of you in here is capable of taking charge, grasping onto one of those opportunities, whether it's a passion, whether it's a family business, whether it's an idea. It doesn't hurt to try. And in my case, I can say it's truly the most rewarding, greatest thing that I've ever done. So I don't want to spend too much more time. I'd love to hear some questions if any of you...
5 minutes. Let me throw the first one at you.
Okay.
Sounds like it was awful damn easy. Tell us about the toughest thing you went through in this little journey.
In chronological order,
Oh, now he's going to list 50 of them.
I'm going to list 50 because I'll name the top 3. In 1998, my partner, who was very eccentric, was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and was involuntarily hospitalized for about 4 months. And he was the spokesperson of our company. So you can imagine we're in this tremendous growth phase. He's the one doing press, all of the interviews. He was our spokesperson. He was the guy that showed up at the trade shows, and suddenly he's not there. And having to do damage control to really get the situation back on track. And ultimately, he was able to recover, to go on, to come back to the company. And so I would say that was probably the first real trying experience. Second was when Schwinn went bankrupt. When they filed for bankruptcy, we kind of saw it coming. We terminated the contract, but then they pulled it into bankruptcy and said, well, we don't believe that you've terminated the contract, and we were essentially litigating for about 2 years with not only Schwinn, but Nautilus, who bought Schwinn. So here I'm in litigation. If you've ever been in litigation with a billion-dollar company, they'll do things just to do things. They will file a new lawsuit every day just to trip you up, just to basically drain you of every ounce of, whether it be financially, energy-wise. So we struggled through that. We emerged from that. We ultimately won the litigation. We actually emerged with close to an eight-figure settlement. So it was a tremendous amount of perseverance. But that experience of walking into the bank and having your credit card put it and say, "Can I get a $30,000 advance?" is kind of scary. And that's really where we were. We had gotten to the point with litigation. And luckily, what saved us is Nautilus was within 10 days of their year end. They were found to be in contempt of court. The judge basically said, look, you return all these things that you think that you purchased. Nautilus wouldn't do it. Their fine for being in contempt was up to $2.5 million. At that point, they had no choice but to settle with us because they would have had to show it on their year-end financials. So that was the second most trying time. The third, from a personal level, the woman Kim who helped me through this tremendously trying time, she was our vice president and general counsel, was pregnant and had 3 kids, gave birth to her 4th child 12 hours after giving birth. And it was personally not only a time for me, but she was my right-hand person. She was my confidant. She was my my person in the company that had helped me through this tremendously trying time. And I'll speak of the community that kind of going back to that concept. It was incredible, the outpouring of support. The clubs, the people that we've worked with, came to us and said, "Hey, what can we?" And set up funds to help college funds. We started a foundation, did charity events, and it was really a great opportunity to see how some of the work that Kim had done and we had done as a company really came back when we needed it. So those are I know you said 1, but 3. So.
That's beautiful. Question on this side, and then we'll do one over there.
I'm hoping to differentiate from Grandpa Fred's question, but because this industry has grown so rapidly, what would you say is the most difficult aspect of growth for your company?
Well, I think, I think it's really the human capital of getting the right people in place, because I think the financial side, there's always to fund different things. Our growth has been pretty dramatic over the years. We've never, our company, other than that short period with Schwinn, grown less than double digit. So we've had to fund a lot of the growth. We're actually today a debt-free company. My partner, one of the fourth things I didn't mention, but in 2004, 2003, was diagnosed with cardiomyopathy in a large heart, had to have a pacemaker installed. So I bought him out of the company in 94, or I'm sorry, 2004. So it really, I'd have to say, if there's one thing, it's really finding, the human capital, the right people to do the job.
Before we go over there, I'm going to build on his question. You're debt-free. That's impressive. How much volume do you do overall in the business?
We do, between our partners, we have a combination of direct revenues that we directly generate from selling bikes through our forth, and then through royalties. So if you look at the top line revenues, it's roughly $50 million a year.
Not bad for debt-free.
Not bad for debt-free.
When are you buying your second Ferrari?
And
one for Mama.
Fred, I love cars, and for me it's not about owning a Ferrari, it's about just sitting in my garage with no going, wow, this is really incredible. It's been a passion, my mom will tell you, it's been a passion of mine ever since I was a kid, and to actually have the is really, really important.
One question over here real quick, and then we'll have to quit. Then we'll have another one over here.
I got one.
Okay, good. You're over there. Good.
So kind of the reverse of this question, he was asking what are the biggest challenges now? What was it, now that you're going through your growth large, what was your biggest challenge when you're starting it and you're trying to sort of launch it, looking back?
I'd have to say the biggest challenge, the fitness industry is kind of strange. I think there's certain markets where, you say, at the end of the world here in California, you'd still have 10 years to live in, we used to say Hungary or wherever it was. And so I'd have to say managing the international growth. The fitness industry, we'd go to these shows and suddenly, a lot of people internationally would see what we were doing. And we really had two choices: either step up and go into those countries right away, or really risk another company going in and basically becoming kind of the first mover in that market. Even though we had the spinning brand, we had everything going for us, it really was a the spinning bike is a fairly low-tech product. There's not a lot of real opportunity to file patents in other countries, so trademarks, yes. Patents, typically, for instance, in certain markets, it might take you 5 years to live, in which time the infringer is gone. So it really, I think, was managing that international growth was really the most challenging, kind of time-consuming part of the business.
I'll have the last word, if I might. I want you guys to read both the bottoms of both of these flags. With ethics, social responsibility is what we try to teach here. I want you to pay attention, because kids always say to me, cut corners and it'll be easier. Maybe it's easier, my friends, but if you run a business like he has, where your heart every day is happy, and you can look in the mirror and say, I run a clean business, I have ethics and social responsibility, I got to tell you, you're a lot happier person. That is exactly what LMU is all about, and you pay attention when you start your business. You can build a business with ethics and social responsibility. And I want to thank Mama and wife for having a good son and a hell of a good husband. Let's give them a hand. Thank you. I'm going to ask them to go to dinner. Maybe that want to come up and say hello. So have at them.
If any fitness ideas, I always love hearing new things. So. Unfortunately, I'm not a product of really having. Well, the internet wasn't really around back when I was in. So we're working on a lot of IT challenges. So, anybody has any ideas?